It is simply looking at how much does this employee cost, comparing that to how much revenue this employee is going to generate, and then comparing those two numbers. All right, some of the biggest mistakes that law firms make when it comes down to setting their billing rates. The first thing is going to be not actually running an employee ROI calculation. Now, I know that for some people, this may be a familiar term. For others, this may be new. So let me explain what an employee ROI calculation is. It is simply looking at how much does this employee cost, comparing that to how much revenue this employee is going to generate, and then comparing those two numbers. For example, if a person is going to cost $10,000 a month, when I look at their salary, when I look at the benefits, when I look at all of the fees that I have to pay to bring this employee on, if they're going to cost me about $10,000 a month, well, if they're going to generate about $20,000 in revenue, what that tells me is their employee ROI calculation is a 2. So 20 divided by 10 tells me they're going to generate 2 times what they actually cost the firm. Now, this becomes a very, very important one because if you're in a very high cost, jurisdiction or a very high cost state or city, when you hire an attorney, and you compare that to your pricing that you're thinking about charging, what you may realize is if you picked a price that's too low, the firm is going to struggle to be able to financially survive. Because if you're paying your staff more than your fees are, or if there's only a small amount of margin between what you pay the staff and what you charge the client, then you're going to have to make it up in a ton of volume. But at the end of the day, we all know that, hey, lawyers can't work indefinitely. I mean, they can't work 24/7. So you do have to balance it between, all right, how much casework can this lawyer or this staff member actually generate? And then we have to figure out, okay, all right, what is the right billable rate we need for this situation to make sense? And a lot of times you can get help from a CFO who understands law firms that can help you kind of go through this to say, hey, if we charge this price and this is the amount of casework that this lawyer can do, they can calculate and tell you what that employee ROI is. And once you look at it, you can say, okay, all right, this makes sense for us to move forward. Because one of the common things that I get asked about from law firms, typically on the back end, after they've been running their firm for a while and they have an issue, they say, hey, we're working really, really hard, but the numbers just aren't making sense. The first thing I do is let's do an employee ROI calculation to see, hey, where are you? And what I tend to find is if their employee ROI is less than a 3, meaning their people are generating less than 3 times what they cost, they typically do have cash flow issues. So when you're picking your billable rate, you want to run that calculation so you can understand financially, does this picture make sense? If not, we either need to figure out our compensation structure or we need to figure out a different billing route. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Family Law Firm Finance Show. At the end of the day, we make finance less complicated so you can build a more profitable law firm. If this was helpful for you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and follow us for more great content.